Hey guys, it's Jay, and this video is going to be about Big Sean's I Decided, the newest album he released, I think yesterday, yesterday. So basically I'm just going to give a review about it and give you my input. I listened to it a few times, so I think I can give a good conceptual, good interpretive, good informative, review on that musical work. So without any further ado, let's get into it. I think my first impression, before I even listened to this album, was that I assumed it would be not a concept within itself, just basically an album that you can kind of vibe to, like how most of his albums were. They lacked some type of conceptual meaning, but this album completely flipped the twist. I think this album within itself shows, without any doubt, Big Sean's best effort and his uniqueness within mainstream hip-hop. I think one of the few people within mainstream hip-hop, Big Sean is able to, categorize what he wants to do, stay in his lane, yet make it relevant enough to make it into mainstream work, which is beautiful within itself. We see this in Moves, we see this in Bounce Back, we see these very simplistic songs with this twist that allows him to differentiate himself from like the typical, rapper that's rapping about women, money, all of that. And we see this even throughout the whole album. I think Bounce Back and Moves at first didn't give this album justice, but listening to it over and over again, I do see that within the bigger picture of this concept of within the album, I decided that Moves and Bounce Back do fit perfectly within this category of work. When starting the album, I think the first thing that pulled me to it was the intro, of course, the phone conversation. But right after that, I think the light itself was a very touching, production-wise, very clean, very crisp, very old Big Sean, very with the keys when he had 24 karat gold, when he kept using the piano keys. I think that was the concept for that song. Personally, the vocals from Jeremiah were perfect. Jeremiah himself is becoming, within his own, breaking out his shell, becoming a very unique artist for features. And with the combination of Big Sean and Jeremiah, you get this beautiful, tasteful beginning to this beautiful album. Once you go down this list, you begin to see this kind of pattern. Once you go down this the album song list, you get this pattern from, a very soft-esque, very meaningful song to this very hype song. And I think that itself was what made this album unique. I think you get this idea that he's a human. I think a lot of albums, people kind of criticize or assume they should only be this one thing. If this album is meant to be a turn-up album, you're going to rap about money and women. And if this album is meant to be about reflecting, you are meant to just only reflect about this particular aspect of this album. Which Big Sean did differently. I feel like Big Sean had the ability to, gauge listeners with Moves and Bounce Back, and then create this combination of, hey, I can rap about this and I am about this because in simplicities of life, I do enjoy these small things because of what I am in this celebrity, outlook or, area. But at the same time, I have these other words that I don't necessarily tell others. I think the best song to reflect on his human type of personality is his fact that he is a human, that he's not this some type of, unique person that's not perfect, would be Halfway Out the Balcony. I think in itself is very nostalgic, very peaceful, and if you look at it in the sense of its visual, the visual aspect of it, because he released a video on it yesterday, February 3rd, you get to see this context of him deep down inside contacting his past self, trying to make sure he understands that his mistakes do not dictate who he is and how he does things in a certain aspect of life, which is very beautiful. I think conceptually, visually, this album is strong, very unique. Direct proportion of happiness between, young Big Sean and old Big Sean in itself shows what we as people go through. Lyrically, Big Sean has really began to really come up on his own flow-wise. It was amazing. I think to some extent his choruses have gotten better. Once again, with Halfway Off the Balcony, the fact of relating chemistry, alchemy, and that anatomy, sciences together was pretty unique, pretty different, and pretty, grabbing. Towards the end of the album is when you really begin to see this deeper aspect of Big Sean. You see Sunday Morning Jetpack. I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong, he said didn't learn faith in school, but that's what I'm testing the most, is something within that realm, which was pretty deep, pretty impactful. I think production in each song of this album, whether it's, you know, Bounce Back, Moves, that Sunday Morning Jackpack, I feel like you get this nostalgic feeling. I feel like you get more of a saddening and more of a hopeful approach towards the end. I think the most impactful songs on the album will be the last two songs, both an ode to his grandmother and mother within itself. I feel that in the context of these proportions, you get this beautiful line of, you know, work and line of openness with this album that you never really get with Big Sean. Big Sean, even he himself, you know, with another line from the album, he said, "I've gotten better from Marvin Gaye and Chardonnay." He has progressed as an artist, and now we get to see this very, 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 you know, opening. He's allowing us into his life and into how he feels as a human being, and that's the most beautiful thing within this album. I think in a very conflicting sense, I feel like this is, you know, Big Sean's masterpiece of work. I feel like this is where he's progressed, and this is what we will expect him to go as an artist, which is pretty much an aspect of rap that we haven't seen before. I think we haven't seen artists have the ability to create, you know, mainstream songs, put them on an album, have them sound different, and then even within that album make the most typical, you know, type of issues. You know, you get the sad songs, happy songs, but make them so progressive and so different that it creates the artist and his style of music. And I think that's something that's refreshing to the game, and it's something that Big Sean has brought into play. I think I decided it's Big Sean's album, the album of his discography. I think just like how Take Care was Drake's album in his discography, or, you know, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy was Kanye West's album in his discography. I feel like this is the album that when hip-hop heads talk, they're going to bring up within Big Sean. I think it hits you. I think this album does hit you, especially when you have headphones on, of course. I think this album does bring you into a place that is deeper than anything you probably felt. And I think that was the purpose of his album. I think the main gist of it was to say, I'm thankful for every bit, you know, everything I've gotten in this life, and I'm thankful for every person who's influenced me and impacted me within this life. And I understand that I may feel like I'm not perfect, but if I wake up every single day understanding that, hey, I can change and I can do better, and I can set these goals for myself, then I can become a better individual. And I think that was the main gist of this album, which in itself is beautiful. I think he didn't try to be too artistic with it. I do wish some of the features were better, and by some I think the Eminem feature lyrically was good, but I didn't like it flow-wise. I didn't like it vocally. I felt like it was pretty too lax for what he was saying. I feel like he could have done better in that aspect lyrically. You know, it's the typical Eminem, but it's not Marshall Mathers, which I was kind of sad about. But in the aspect of the Dream did a great job. Jeremiah did a great job, and I think, you know, just the features and the way the songs are set up and the ending and the use of strings, the use of distorted basses, distorted drums, you know, very filtered synths. You get this creation that can cause feeling. I think that was the passion. I think the use of choirs at the end of the song and the end of the album, the last song, all had a purpose, and it was very deep and very conceptual, but it wasn't too abstract, if that makes sense. I think this album allows for simplicity in a greater scale. I think if you understand the concept, because I'm an architect, less is more. And I think that's what Big Sean did. I think Big Sean was able to allow his very simplistic use of, you know, play on words. Big Sean is becoming an artist. It's going to get more of a fan base within itself. I think for years he's been underrated and overlooked, but I think this new album, Big Sean, is going to become an artist to, you know, admire and respect, because his craft is very impeccable. All in all, within this album, if I had to give it a final verdict, I would definitely give it 8.7, maybe even a 9 to some extent. I think it is things within the album that I felt were rushed. I do think I think it's kind of a curve to some extent to see Big Sean within this very deep aspect of his emotions, but I think is a very likable, you know, aspect of it. Yeah, that's it, guys. So this is my first impression. If you like the video, give it a like, comment, subscribe, and share the video too. You know, in the comment sections down below, tell me what you liked about the album. Tell me what you didn't like about the album. Tell me what's your favorite song, you know? So, alright, I'm out.
Trust me, they don't really